Hey guys, it's the Heretic Chick, and I have something a little different today, but I think it's really important. It involves the election. And you're probably thinking, lady, you're way too late because it's already Thursday. But trust me, it's not too late. So even if you're watching this on Friday or whenever, it's okay. But I think that it's important, and so I would love it if you would hear me out. And if you can try to hang in there. YouTube Studio says that you used to watch for 2 minutes before you hung up on me. Now it's up to 5 minutes, which I think is amazing. 5 minutes, I'm really excited about that. So, maybe if you can watch all the way to the end, maybe I'll give you a little prize or something in the comment section. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But so I just want to talk to you about this passage that I've really been thinking a lot about. And I'm sorry, I never know if I'm supposed to look over there. I feel like I want to look at the red stop sign, but I think that you guys are actually over there where that green light is. So I'll try to look over there. But okay, Don Preston was talking about this passage from 1 Samuel the other day, and I've just really been thinking a lot about it. So it's 1 Samuel chapter 8, and this is the passage where the Israelites ask for a king. And they come to Samuel and they say, Samuel, give us a king. And Samuel is displeased by this, and he prays to God. And God said, Samuel, give them what they want, because they aren't rejecting you, they're rejecting me. And God says, but warn them. And so Samuel goes and he warns the people, and he says, if you put a king over yourself, he's going to take 10% of your land and 10% of your animals and 10% of your harvest, which actually doesn't sound that bad if you pay taxes in the United States. But anyway, he basically goes on to say he's going to make you his slaves. And he just tells them how awful it's going to be. And he says, you're going to cry out to God because of the misery that is brought upon you from this king that you have made as a ruler over you. And the people hear what he says, and they come back to him and they say, nope, we don't care what you say. We want a king. We want to be like the other nations. And this was just a terrible thing. They rejected God and they wanted to be like the other nations. God had called them to be separate. Remember, he said they were going to be his special people. And what was the difference? The difference was that they didn't need a king because God was their king. He was this pillar of fire by night and this cloud by day. He dwelt with them. They didn't have to improve their economy or their educational system or worry about immigration or how they were going to farm, because he provided them manna from heaven and he provided them water from the rock. He was everything they needed, but they rejected that. And so what I'm saying is they were to put their faith in God over man. Man, what did other kingdoms do? They put their faith in their army, in their king, their leader, their chariots. Remember Egypt? Egypt had lots of chariots, and those chariots pursued the Israelites right through the Red Sea. And we know what happens, right? I don't have to tell you guys, the waters come over, all the Israelites are drowned, their chariot wheels were stuck in the mud, and they perished. But the Israelites survived because God was fighting for them. I think of David. Remember when he went to fight Goliath and he goes to Saul, and Saul says, okay, but you need to take my armor. Here's my shield. Here's my helmet. Here's my sword. And David puts it all on and he can't even move. He takes it off. I can't wear this. And he faces the giant, which, Goliath had a sword. He had an armor bearer, or a shield bearer. He had armor. And David only had 5 smooth stones and a slingshot. And we know who was victorious there. It wasn't because of David's might. It was because of the Lord. And, then there's Gideon. And I love this story because it's so funny to me. He has this big army and God keeps whittling it down, and then it's down to 300 men of Israel against a whole bunch of Midianites, which God calls, they were like the sand of the sea and like locusts. They were just everywhere spread out. And they had a mighty army with all the weapons of war. What did Gideon have? It said his soldiers had in one hand a trumpet and in the other hand a torch with a jar over it. They didn't have any weapons, and yet they won because the Lord fought for them. And so we need to remember that we can't put our faith in an earthly king or a mighty army or a ruler like other nations. I mean, remember what happened to David, okay? David, at the end of his life, at the beginning of his life, he had this great faith in God, and he went out and he fought the giant. At the end of his life, he goes out and he makes Joab take a census of all Israel. Why did he do that? He wanted to know how big his army was, because he forgot that he didn't need a big army because God was fighting for him. He started to lack faith, and God punished him for that. We need to remember that our citizenship is in heaven. Whoever wins this election, they're not really our king. They're not really our ruler, because our citizenship is in heaven. That's Philippians 3, in case you wondered about that. And so you might be saying to yourself, well, okay, what is this crazy heretic lady saying? Is she saying that we shouldn't vote? No, I'm not saying that. You do what your conscience leads you to do as far as that is concerned. Am I saying that we shouldn't be active in politics or in the government? I'm not saying that. But I'm saying we shouldn't put our faith in the government. We shouldn't put our faith in everything will be better if we just get this guy or this gal in the office. If we can just have these people in the Supreme Court, or if we can have these people controlling Congress or the Senate, because we don't spread the gospel through politics. I mean, think about Paul. Paul wrote quite a bit of the New Testament, if I'm not mistaken, and he never, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, he never asked for people to be politically active. I don't remember him saying, hey, we need to get out there and vote or get a new emperor or anything like that. And I don't even remember him writing to the people in Jerusalem and saying, hey, we need to do something about that crooked high priest. You know, he wasn't trying to change the world through politics, but he changed it through the gospel. And even in the book of Philippians, which, if I'm not mistaken, he was in prison when he wrote it, he says at the end of Philippians, he says, all the saints send their greeting, especially those of Caesar's household. Isn't that cool? He had made a difference in the government. I mean, he had people in Caesar's own household who he had converted to Christianity. He calls them saints. But he didn't do it through the normal political means. I mean, he did it from prison, actually. And in Galatians chapter 5, it's talking about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, self-control. He says, against such things there is no law. I wonder if those are the things that Paul was using to change the government, to change people in Caesar's own household. So I'm just suggesting that maybe that's a better way for us to make a difference. And also, you know, when the Israelites were exiled to Babylon, okay, they were there, and God told Jeremiah, tell the people, you're going to be here for a while. You know, you're not going to get to go home back to Israel for a while, so settle down. and settle in, have jobs, work, plant, have children, marry, and pray for the welfare of Babylon, because you're going to be here for a while. I feel like that applies to us today. This is our temporary abode, this earth. It's not our true home. We're exiles here, and we need to try to promote the welfare of wherever we are. But we also need to remember that this isn't heaven. Our citizenship, our true citizenship lies somewhere else. So if your person doesn't win, I don't want you to be disappointed and think all hope is lost, because all hope is not lost. Our hope is in Christ, and he is sitting on his throne, and he is ruling and reigning right now. We don't need an earthly president to change our lives. We have Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, okay? So, remember Joseph, okay? I love the story of Joseph. Remember what happened to him. He had this great life. He was the favorite son. He had the rainbow robe, and his brothers tried to kill him. And then they sold him as a slave, and he went from being a slave to being cast into the dungeon. And then he was exalted to second to Pharaoh, and his own family came begging for grain because there was a famine. And when they realized who Joseph was, they were terrified. And he said to them, "Don't worry, I'm not angry with you, because my husband's phone was ringing. What has happened, what you meant for evil, God used for good to accomplish the saving of many lives." Okay, so what I'm saying is, no matter what happens, even if it doesn't go the way that you think it should go, and even if things get bad, maybe they will. I don't know. Didn't Jesus say, in this world you will have trials? We might have trials, that's true, but remember what he said. Take heart, I have overcome the world. Okay? He has a plan for us, and it's good. It's good, and he's on his throne. We don't have to worry about an earthly king or an earthly kingdom. My old pastor used to say this, I'm getting old enough now that I've been through a few elections, and it feels like every time it's like, if it doesn't go the way we want it, it's going to be the end of the world, But he used to always say this during the election season when people were maybe a little bit anxious. He would quote Proverbs 21:1, and it says, "The king's heart is a stream of water in the hands of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will." He controls everything, okay? The most important decision that you're going to make today isn't who you voted for. Well, maybe it is. You have to vote for making Christ the King of your life, for letting him be the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and putting your faith in him and not worrying about all these earthly things, not being so earthly minded, having trust and faith in him that he can take care of you. So I hope that encourages you today. If you were a little bit anxious, or if it doesn't go the way that you feel it needs to go, or you hope it goes, those are just some things I've been thinking about. And I appreciate that you watched. I don't know. We'll see how many of you made it to the end.